Welcome back, everyone, to Shred and Soul.
Welcome. I'm Shred, aka Kevin Wood.
And I'm Soul, aka Wind Hughes.
Well, today we're going to talk about the paranormal and our experiences and insights into the paranormal. And this is not a blanket paranormal discussion. It's primarily our brushes with the spirit world and ghosts, if you will.
And guides.
Guides, ghosts.
Telepathy.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember frequently I would see a disembodied figure standing over your side of the bed looking at you.
Oh, you're going to start with that one?
Yeah.
This was an issue.
Yeah, I would wake up in the middle of the night and see it was a partial body dressed in turn of the century clothing, like a button down sort of top with the frilly kind of, cowboy days look outfit on.
It was a period spirit.
A period spirit. And this spirit would be standing over Wynn's side of the bed. And it was uncanny. It was never over my side of the bed, but I would wake up in the middle of the night and see this.
And I would say, he would tell me the next morning, oh, I saw this woman by the side of your bed. And it would freak me out a little bit because it's not much different than if a physical being was standing over your bed. We'd wonder, who are they? What do they want? Are they friendly? And so I'd say to him, well, what did she want? And he would say, I didn't ask, which is something we do all the time in life. I'd say, well, what was happening? He'll say, I didn't ask. Same with spirits. And so I said, please, when you see her again, ask her who she is and what she wants.
Of course I didn't. And, well, I was too freaked out to say anything. I was wondering if I was actually seeing what I was seeing. And so, yeah, every time that would happen, why don't you wake me up next time that would happen? But it's so weird and fleeting that the last thing I'm thinking is asking it things or waking you up. And
so what did you do? You just went back to sleep.
Went back to sleep and remembered it in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but after a while I made him promise to wake me up the next time it happened. And she did come. And what we actually did then is that's when we did a clearing of the room. And periodically we do that in the house. We'll drum or smudge, but we go through and set the boundaries of who can be here and who is not allowed here. And of course, it's always something of positive energy and love, and if they've been invited to be here, but we don't particularly welcome uninvited spirit guests the same way we kind of don't welcome uninvited physical guests.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and then after we did that, she stopped coming.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a very long time, actually.
Yeah, and I'm totally curious who she was and why she was over my bed. So at one point I thought, well, this is an old girlfriend of yours in another life, and she's not quite sure how she feels about me. And we would joke about it, who she was, but you never really found out.
Yeah, well, she could have been a disembodied spirit of somebody who you were attracted to, or at the time an attachment.
Well, and remember, you began to see her, was it Taos or the rental?
Taos.
It was in New Mexico, so years before she would appear, and then we moved to California, and we rented a house first, and she was there as well. Yeah. And then she followed us to this house when we bought it, and that's about the time we decided to set boundaries with her.
Yeah, right? I don't recall seeing her in this house, but
yeah, because that's when we did the clearing here.
We did a major clearing.
Yeah.
But at any rate, this is it's plain as day. I mean, but with a mystical shroud,
Yeah.
And so it was frightening, disturbing. It's like one of those things you see it and you go, oh wow, this is too creepy. I think I need to go back to sleep.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, even though for both of us the unseen world is part of our accepted, experienced normal world, it's not much different than if someone physical came up behind you and you didn't know they were there. It would startle us, startles me. And the same with spirits. If you don't expect to see them and they suddenly appear, it can be disconcerting. And it's not often something we can explain. And so even though many spirits are benign, not all, and we're not afraid to engage with them, it can be startling when they're not expected, which is often the case.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing people in the house, we've both seen shadow people, not as much in this house, but I've seen some here. We've had people in other houses that we would just see cross a room pretty clearly, or out of the corner of our eye they would appear. We both have a lot of these experiences. I've had in this house, one night I was awakened to someone touching my head in a very loving manner and touching my hair. And I thought it was Kevin, and I opened my eyes and reached back to see if he was that close to me, and it wasn't. He was on the other end of the bed sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So someone very lovingly touched my face and stroked my head. That was pretty recent.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of
What
things that were
about that
recent.
time when you woke up with that big scratch on your back? We took a picture
That was in
of that.
Taos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
too
it
bad we
was
didn't have that pulled up to show you.
like a scratch, you know.
I was having nightmares, and we were
Mhm.
seeing things. In Taos, New Mexico, we had a lot of spirits around, and it was not comfortable. I mean, we'll put crystals out. We have a cross over our bed because we were having some dark energies for a while, and those have gone.
Yeah.
But in Taos, we were definitely having some of those experiences. And one morning I woke up in the middle of the night. I can't remember when I woke up, and I felt burning on my back, and there were like finger scratches down my back.
Like scratches that
Yeah.
somebody would do. And
That was a little disconcerting.
I felt something tugged my toe one night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I felt like at times like somebody sitting on the bed.
Yeah, I felt sitting on the bed,
Mhm.
especially in this house.
Yeah, in this house
Yeah.
more, yeah.
Yeah. So things
And this
happen all the
house this
time.
house is actually where I had my toe yanked.
Yeah.
And
And my hair stroked.
mhm.
Yeah. But this house has really good energy. I don't think either one of us have had much negative feelings here at all.
No,
You've
just
seen
kind
the
of
floaters.
yeah, that, and then in this vicinity, you know, we're both very sensitive to vibrations and energies. And we'll go into a place and we'll go around a corner or like in an antique store. There's a certain spot where you get that heebie-jeebie feeling and that kind of tingling through your body where your hair rises up. And I'll say, "Do you feel that here?" And sure enough, every single time we were both like totally able to, you know,
Sense that. And you're really good in at not necessarily saying right there, but to say, go to that part of the room and tell me where you feel it, to see if we actually feel it in the same place, and most of the time we do. Antique stores are great for that because you think of all the history and the energy attached to those things. Remember John in Taos had that antique, John Robb had the antique chest that he and Donna had.
Mhm.
And since they brought that into the house, they were having people in their rooms. And I think we all feel these things and see these things because it's just the unseen world. And when you pay attention and you notice things and you give them credibility and you don't brush them off, you realize just how much apart interdimensionally we actually live, and experience.
Well, it's all a part of conscious creation. The energy is basically it's just energy, and I think that uh, uh, impressions of especially intense emotional energies can become absorbed in the area around an object, where an object might be somebody's prized possession or something they really care about. That energy is around it and part of its creative properties.
Yeah. Well, psychometry, I told you the story of the person who came into my house when I lived in Carmel Valley. And they were just a friend of a friend came. My friend came, brought a friend. And this person had a beautiful ring. And I asked if I could see it. I was drawn to it. And it was a man's ring. And I put the ring on and I held it. And I had immediate sensations of my hands curling and my body tightening and shaking. And it was these contractions. And it was very, very uncomfortable. And I gave the ring back to him. And I told him what I felt and asked whose ring was that, because this is what I felt, this very uncomfortable energy. And he said it was his grandfather's. When his grandfather was passing, he was restrained in the hospital bed and couldn't move and was always flinching and grabbing and pulling on the restraints in the hospital bed. So that's what that was. That's what I was picking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like old jewelry and old rings. They come to me sometimes, and I'll always have Wind take a reading on it before I commit.
You have to pause right here and edit. The red light went on. Does that mean the camera shut off?
No, the red light's always been on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the psychometry is really something that we feel touching things, and I'm sure you do too. You pick something up and a feeling comes over you and you're not quite sure what it is, and most people never stop to think, was it this cup I just picked up? Was it my friend's earring I just put in? Whatever it was.
The departed may have an attachment to a physical object that once was theirs, and I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
When Andy passed away, this is one instance. He left a pile of Dallas Cowboy newspapers. It was their local publication of the Dallas Cowboy football team. Anyway, I got tired of lugging these things around, and I ended up throwing them in the fire. And I heard about it. It was like,
what did you hear?
Definitely, there was some pushback.
What did you sense?
There was unhappiness about me destroying the Dallas Cowboy newspapers.
But did you feel it?
It wasn't like all of a sudden I saw and heard. It was like I could tell. You
just felt negative or unhappiness.
Unspoken words, unspoken communication.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly how the communication with the unspoken can be most of the time, and that's why dreams can be so important as far as
absolutely.
That communication. We went and saw John Edwards last weekend.
That was wonderful. If you've never
don't know
seen him
John
live.
Edwards, he's a renowned psychic, and he does readings. He can speak to people's relatives who have passed away, and the amount of detail that he comes up with is absolutely phenomenal.
He's a very genuine medium and a really sweet guy, and brings humor to his readings, even though sometimes they're difficult and painful. We really enjoyed his event.
They are painful. I mean, most of the people there were there because they had lost somebody, and desperately trying to communicate with them. And so the overall feeling in the room was heaviness.
It was painful.
Mm-hmm.
I was, tears welling up so much in the very beginning, especially, because you could just feel the pain. You can sense the sadness and the grief and the hope of people that their loved one might come through. It was just very, very thick, but wonderful event. I suggest maybe checking John Edwards out if you haven't. I want to share one of the oddest things I've ever seen. And this is, after decades, a lifetime of seeing spirits and beings and what you would call ghosts and hearing things. And just maybe 6 months ago, the white thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got up in the middle of the night, and it's dark here. We're in the forest. There aren't any street lights. We shut everything down when we go to bed. So it was really dark, but there are night lights. And so I got up and I looked and I saw our cat, what I thought was our cat. and I saw her coming towards me very quickly, which was odd because she's an old cat and doesn't really run quickly very often. But she was running towards me the way some cat would if they want to attack your feet. And so I looked and went, Shanti's coming. And I ran over to the bed to jump on the bed so she couldn't get my feet. And as I was running that way, I turned to look, and it was not Shanti. It was the oddest creature I've ever personally seen. And it looked about the size of a large cat with crab-like, spider-like legs. And it was bright white, and it was running to me the way a fast spider would, but it was going like this, wobbling back and forth. And it scooted so quickly towards me, I freaked out. I jumped on that bed so quickly. And then I said, Kevin, I woke him up. And then I turned on the light and I went back outside, didn't see it. And then Shanti was around the other direction sleeping on the chair. So it definitely wasn't her. But it was a creepy creature. And, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was nothing harmful, or maybe it was very benign, but it was a creepy crab-like, spider-like white. It was probably about 2 feet or 2.5 feet long and maybe 2.5 feet wide. Yeah. And that was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
Definitely not the cat. Because
no.
Our cat doesn't move like that.
I do better with ghosts and shadow figures than I felt when I saw the white thing.
Particularly terrifying, actually.
Yeah, because it was so unexplainable. Mm-hmm. And, ghosts and spirits I can relate to, beings, disemparted beings.
Yeah. Impressions, beings. Are there... What I question is this, okay? We have a supernatural realm. We only call it supernatural because we call it that. This is natural. That's supernatural. But at any rate, it exists, and it exists in parallel as part of our entire reality. And every now and then we glimpse what's there. And it's really hard to understand it. And of course, at my level of understanding, other people are more tuned in. But I would like to know at times, this particular thing that you saw, that was scary, not like a warm and cuddly experience.
I didn't want it to catch up to me.
Yeah. These disembodied things that I've seen and feeling, there was one night, and it's happened frequently actually, where I wake up and I see billowing clouds above the bed and like storm. Brewing storm. And I lay there and think, Jesus, this is freaking me out. And
I asked you to wake me up when you saw it, and then I was seeing it too. Mm-hmm. It was really there.
We experienced the same exact thing.
And it has an oppressive feeling to it, the way low-lying fog or clouds would. Mm-hmm. You can feel the weight of it. Yeah. So, in these things we see constantly. Well, Kevin and I have an interest in going to haunted hotels and places and cemeteries. Love cemeteries. We have so much amazing photography from cemeteries too. But being open to connecting. And we've gone to, there was a hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico, close to where we lived. And it was known to be haunted, and there were still bullet holes. It was the old Wild Wild West saloon. It's in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And we were in there and felt a lot.
You could feel the energy there.
We didn't stay there, though. There were, known sightings there, but we always wanted to and didn't. But we've stayed, there's one here in Santa Rosa we've stayed at called La Rose. And there was a family murdered there, and some other things occurred. And we went there.
Got the room, the exact room.
Got the room where this happened. And it was... I can feel it right now, kind of the hair standing up. It was an intense place.
There were areas where the vibrations were so powerful that you would have to be asleep not to feel it. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, now, my sweet Kevin got me something that I requested for Christmas, which is the Ovilus. And if any of you watch Ghost Adventures, Zach, look out, I'm coming.
Yeah.
And this is a very sweet machine, which I have yet to take out. We're taking it out I have an upcoming birthday. We're taking it out on my birthday to the cemetery, but it's a little machine and it registers different energy waves, and you can select with how you want it to register. But one of them is vocabulary, and so you bring it to an area and stabilize it so it's not moving around, and then you can ask questions, and spirit disembodied beings can answer and the words will appear. So you can find out if you're having an intelligent exchange. And thank you for this so much. I'm really excited to use it. They use it on Ghost Adventures a lot, but it's wonderful. That's how serious we are about it.
Yeah, totally into that. And it doesn't stop at hotels. I mean, any place you might be, you can sometimes find like an area where you think, God, I wish I had the Ovilus here. So
the restaurant Mendocino.
The Mendocino, yeah, and the Mendocino Hotel.
Yeah.
Various places. Napa, remember
Napa, that hotel. We went walking through there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we go seeking them out.
Yeah.
The family thinks we're a little crazy to draw this to us, but we seek it out. And I think part of it is because we've both had experiences with guides, other beings in our life that are disembodied, and don't have a fear of the other world, the unseen world, for the most part. And I think that is one of the things that we take very seriously too. We have guides that work with us. You can call them angels, beings that contact with us, and they've both been a big part of both of our lives, working with that guidance, working with that wisdom, asking for that. And we both have stories of that. Like the car being totaled, remember?
Yeah.
They talk to me, and in the first episode, the reveal, I do describe how they helped me with Find Kevin, because I was told to answer emails to look at emails I was about to erase. They were in spam. And so I listened to my guidance a lot. But this one particular day, I was leaving my office, and it was the day before Thanksgiving. My son calls and says, "Hey, Mom, can you get some rolls?" And I said, "Sure, on the way home, because tomorrow's Thanksgiving and everything will be closed." So I get in my car, and I was going to go to this grocery store called Andy's. And I get in the car and I hear very clearly, "Oh, don't go to Andy's. Go to your little town and go to the little grocery there." And I argued in my head, because the grocery here has very few options and I knew I wouldn't get what I wanted. No, don't go to Andy's. Go. And I had this exchange with this guide. And I said, okay, I know to listen. I will listen. So I got in my car and I'm going out the exit. And instead of turning one way to go home to the little store, I turned to go to Andy's. I did go to Andy's. Park my sweet little sports coupe that I loved, my Tiburon. I love that car. And while I'm at the register checking out, someone comes running in from the parking lot and says, "An RV just broke loose from up the hill and it just took out 5 cars."
One of them was a Tiburon.
Yep. I looked at the cashier. She looked at me and I said, "And one of those is mine." I knew it because I didn't listen. I was being warned. I was being protected.
I mean, how many times have we all done that?
Yeah.
Where you get this.
And there was my totaled car.
This, no holds barred kind of direction, and you ignore it. Yeah. And you think, "Nah, I think I know better." And then all of a sudden, oh, crap.
Well, God, one of the most profound interventions in my life by a guide, angel, a person around. And this is the similar voice to the one I heard in the car. This is another car story, actually. We were walking to our car in the parking lot. Nearby, we went to see a Seahawks game at a restaurant there. And as we are walking, there's a homeless woman starts yelling. And we turned to look at her. And I, at that moment, moved away from Kevin because we were in the middle and I was afraid we were going to get hit by a car. And all of a sudden, I'm hit by a car that did not see me, saw Kevin because he was out in the middle of the lane. And I'm thrown on the car, and then slammed down, was injured quite a bit. And in the moment when I was thrown off onto the hood of the car didn't stop, and I'm sliding down the hood. as if to go off the front of the car. And a really calm, sweet voice. And this is how I experienced it in terms of time. Hey, wind, if you keep going down the front of the car, you're going to go under the car. So what you should do is tuck and roll off the right side. And I said, okay. And that's what I did. And that was my sense of time, but it was slowed down with a deep voice.
It looked like it was in slow motion too,
Yeah.
from my vantage point.
Time stopped. Yeah, and it was literally this fast. Bam, bam.
Yeah.
That fast. And so I listened that time, luckily, because I would have been thrown under the front of the car. So we have those interventions, people around us all the time.
Yeah, we do. And I think part of the reason why I'm so interested in this kind of thing is to, in one way, it'd be nice to have a clear channel to the guides and to understand what they're trying to say without filtering it through my own ego.
And we do have a direct line to the
just
guides and other dimensions if we cultivate that ability.
It.
Yeah. And then there's, also parallel realities, other dimensions. I write about them in my book. And one of the first experiences I had that I was aware what it was, of different dimensions overlaying each other, was I was meditating. I was living in the mountains of Southern California, and I was by myself in this beautiful A-frame in the woods, and I was just sitting there meditating, and all of a sudden, from behind, I hear the sound of a runner, and this is what it sounded like. I could hear the body, I could feel their body, and they literally, and I didn't know what it was, I was in this altered state, and it came right through me as I sat on the floor, and a runner, a male in shorts and a t-shirt, went right through me and proceeded in front of me down a lane in a park. And this reality appeared, and they weren't lined up. It was as if it was a double exposure, and his world was lower than mine. So it was lower than it should have been in my world, and I could feel him, I could hear him, I could see him, and then he continued down the path, oblivious to me, and then disappeared. The whole thing just faded. And I have those. I call them bleed through sometimes. We'll have them and talk about them at night.
Oh, yeah. One particular incident for me is that I was just about to fall asleep, and all of a sudden, I'm transported to China. And this is old China, and I'm dealing with a wagon full of hay, and I'm bartering with somebody in a street somewhere in some city in ancient China. And that's not like one of my hobbies, knowing everything about China. It just kind of came up. And I'm thinking, well, was that like a glimpse of a parallel reality? Because, even though it might have happened a long time ago, that is still part of conscious creation. And so I was faced with the dilemma of trying to understand it and thinking, well, perhaps it is a glimpse, or it could have been just everything I've picked up from Hollywood all of a sudden entered my mind and created this scenario. But where did that come from? And I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time. It really makes you wonder, where is that coming from?
And sometimes we'll ask each other, we're just resting, relaxing, and I will say, I was just off in another world and in the middle of a conversation with someone. The way you have a dream and you're trying to hang on to it as you're waking up, and the harder you try to hang on to it, you go into the other aspects of your mind, it disappears. That sort of feeling. And then we're not asleep, just having this quiet moment, and we're transported to what feels to me as though, and I believe is, where we exist in another dimension, in a parallel world, another world. And I'm in the middle of a conversation with someone that's so meaningful and important, and I'm fully present, and then something pulls me back here, and then for a minute or two, these two worlds overlap, and then that one fades, and I'm fully back here. Same way with being out of body, expanded beyond the limits of the body. Something pulls you back and you land back. But we've talked about that. I'll say, wow, I was just off having this experience with another person, and often you'll say, yeah, I was off too.
Mm-hmm. Right. Off in another world, a completely other world, and not even being asleep.
No, awake. It's wide awake.
Yeah, just relaxing and just enjoying the moment.
Yeah. And I call them bleed throughs because it's dimensions bleeding through to this one. And sometimes I could be talking to someone else and have a bleed through. That's, topic for another episode, maybe what they are. But I think that's where the spiritual world overlaps with this world. And when we pay attention, we know that they're there. I mean, we've seen orbs and crazy figures, shadow figures being. One day, we're in this house, and I walked into your office to talk to you because I saw I saw a man walk across the living room into your office. And so I followed you into the office, and no one was there. And I said, Kevin, where are you? And I came in and you were asleep on the bed. So we see those things all the time. And I think people in general can if you pay attention to it. And, we'll let you know for sure how the obelisk does at the cemetery next week.
We'll give you a full report.
Who comes through and what happens. And let me say that for me, since I do take these worlds as seriously as I do interacting with people out in the world, I do not let anyone just walk in my house. And we are protected in a lot of different ways. So when I engage in the spirit world, I surround myself. I'll do a ritual and set a protective chant or prayer. And I'm very cognizant of what I feel. And if I feel anything at all that feels dark or negative, it gets cast away or we leave. We don't invite and we don't encourage. We don't go seeking dark entities or bad experiences, even though the same way in the physical world, if we left our door open, anyone could walk in. When we open the doors, anyone can walk in, but it's very important to protect yourself, pay attention to what you're feeling.
But once you leave the house, you're fair game.
Yeah, you're fair game. So it's really important to pay attention and take it very seriously. There's nothing about this that's any different than the physical world.
I mean, you could bring an attachment home with you and without even realizing it, and especially
that's
doing
what
some
Justin's
of the things we've done, going to cemeteries, investigating crypts, seeking out haunted areas and hotels and stuff.
Or even just asking for guides.
Buying old stuff.
Buying lots of antique stuff.
Antiques.
I mean, when I call in a guide, or I ask sometimes before I go to sleep, I will ask that someone speak to me in my dreams. And when I do that, I always cast that with a lot of protection and clarity about who it is.
Yeah.
And take it very seriously. We don't take it lightly at all.
I mean, if it's possible, the guides that you might hear might not be truly the guides that you want to hear. I was thinking about that during the John Edwards show. I was thinking, well, maybe he is actually communicating with these people's relatives, or is there a entity in the room that is mimicking what these people know or is able to tap into it, attachments. And, that just brings me back to the fascination with the entire subject and the realm of it. You really don't know. I don't. I'm sure there are people who know a lot more than I do, but my experiences are valid.
And when we experience something uncomfortable, for example, we have the old Celtic cross over our bed because I was having a lot of nightmares. You were having nightmares. We felt something that wasn't comfortable. And we did a clearing of the house. And for some reason, we were talking about vampires. I can't remember what. But anyway, something we were told, put the cross over the bed, and we have crystals next to the bed too, to help. to help us, and that stuff stopped.
That cross, I bought that. Remember, it was in New Mexico where they had that holy dirt that was
Chimayo.
Yeah,
We were in Chimayo, a
Mhm.
sacred ground church known for healing, miraculous healings.
And that room with all of the shoes.
Yeah, well, the shoes of the children
Yeah,
and adults who've been healed there,
talk
and
about
walls
some
of crutches,
hmm
right?
hmm
That's a very beautiful place. If ever you're in New Mexico, in the Santa Fe Taos area, Chimayo is this little church in this little town that's just a magical place and a powerful place to visit.
Yeah, where miracles occur.
Yeah, they do.
Mhm.
It's also a place, the same as John Edwards' event, where it's very heavy in the sense and full of love and miracles, that you can feel the significant energy that's happened there
Mhm.
for many, 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 many people. It's a very visceral thing too.
That brings the question up, though. During the Edwards show, there was heaviness in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
In other places where contact with the other world, you feel more of an uplifted kind of feeling.
Well, remember, John said in the beginning that each event for him has a different personality.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it'll be it turns out children that died come through with and he'll select people. They just call on hands randomly as to who is going to ask a question and who he may do a reading for. And he said sometimes it could be, tragedy. Sometimes it's not so dark and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So this one had a lot of children, deaths of children.
Yeah, I guess that could bum people out.
Wasn't it? A lot of deaths of children?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually, come to think of it.
And like the grief with that is probably as big a grief as any.
Yeah. So grief is real.
Yeah.
And not to be avoided. So that was probably the explanation for the heaviness.
Yeah.
Is that shared
That's
grief.
what I assumed.
Yeah.
Because I know when I've been to other readings and mediums, like you said, in the crowd, it doesn't bring tears to me in the way that did. It was a sadness, just
that was
such
my
sadness.
first experience going to see anything like that. I was really amazed. I went in skeptical, thinking it was going to be parlor shows, and or possibly.
Because you weren't familiar with him.
Yeah, not familiar at all. But I left there thinking, this guy's tapping into it.
Yeah, he's a very genuine medium.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we may have covered this topic pretty well. We have a lot more experiences. I'm sure we'll share them.
We've scratched the surface. We'll talk about this again. Yeah,
for sure. And definitely report to you. Again, this is an Ovilus. Any of you ghost hunters out there, you can get it online. Just look up OVILUS, Ovilus. Check out Ghost Hunters on TV. It's one of their tools.
Okay, all right. We're done?
Yeah. Till next time. See you later. Thanks for coming. Hit the subscribe button, please. It helps us and it's free. Doesn't obligate you to anything other than you'll get notice when new episodes come up.
See you next time.
Okay. Bye.